Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Kubi Anaerobic Wash Processed Ethiopia from Black and White Coffee Roasters. And there's the bag right there. And Black and White, based out of Wake Forest, North Carolina. And they're a coffee roaster I have pretty extensive history with, a coffee roaster that has appeared on this channel numerous times before, and a coffee roaster I have a lot of positive things to say about, as they have been one of my favorite American coffee roasters for a number of years. It's only been more recently that I haven't been as into their coffees, mostly due to the fact that they've leaned pretty heavily into the experimental side of coffees. But with that being said, when I was purchasing that Chiroso, this coffee caught my interest because I've always been really positive about their more standard offerings. And this one right here, while it is an anaerobic coffee, it sounded like my flavor profile, and I've always been a lot more high on the anaerobic washed as opposed to the anaerobic natural coffees. So I felt like this one would be a pretty good one I would enjoy, and one that was worth discussing from Black and White. This right here is day 26. And Black and White does have a brew guide on their website. It is our standard recipe, a 16:1 water to coffee ratio brewed at 205 degrees Fahrenheit. And I like this one best through the Chemex, which indicates a more medium grind. Roast profile, they have listed for this one light, and while it is lighter than most American coffees, I would say that it is still a little bit more on the developed side of that light. So I agree with the light American for the roast profile, just a shade more developed than a truly light coffee. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and start discussing this coffee. Day 7, first impression, and yes, I understand it was a little early, but it definitely had a fair bit of brightness to it. It was mostly skewing a bit on the citric side of things, but it was still quite clean, and that's typically what I can expect from an anaerobic wash, is that it will still come out a little bit more clean than even just a natural processed coffee. Had plenty of potential. There were a lot of positives to find in that first impression, even if it was just a little citric. But as I always say, I don't mind starting a coffee pretty early, mostly because I do enjoy seeing just how much it changes from that early impression up to the later days. Day 9, a bit more depth to the cup, as it definitely remains pretty clean, with a slight floral delicacy to it in a somewhat pronounced manner. A little bit more sweetness, overall still pretty light and a pleasant cup of coffee. So enjoying these early impressions, knew that it was just going to be a little too fresh to be consuming, but even then, it still left a pleasant enough first couple of experiences. Day 11, best day to this point, as we finally are cashing in on all of that potential we'd experienced earlier in this cup, as it's quite vibrant and there is this very peach forward aspect to the cup and a pleasant bit of candied sweetness as well. Plenty of the Ethiopian characteristics in a much more pronounced manner. Lovely cup of coffee, best impression to this point. Day 13, seeing improvement with each cup, as this one had so much of the candied lemon aspect to it, and I think they have lemon curd listed on here, and I'm fine with that too. At this moment, it was a little bit more on the candied lemon side of things, but as it does cool down, there's this vibrant peach that becomes really pronounced, and it is so prominent and pronounced that it became the most dominant characteristic of this cup. After the initial sip, after you let it kind of sit on your palate a little bit, and then it really shines a really bright peach to this cup. Flavor profiles are clean, yet very vibrant, so very enjoyable. This has been my really positive things to say about Black and White, is their coffees are very flavorful. This one was no exception. Day 15, cup continues to open up, as this was by far the most pronounced peach component to this day. Definitely on this day it would have charted at a level 5, because the peach was so vibrant. One of the more peachy cups of coffee I've had the entire year from any coffee roaster. That was impressive. Quite well done. It is mostly encompassed by the citrus on the forefront and in the finish, so it's sandwiched between citric aspects. Citrus on the front, citrus on the back, but in that middle you're getting some wonderfully vibrant peach. It goes through that intermediary period where the burst of peach is complemented by this wonderful dark honey aspect to it. So it has a lot of the things that they're listing on here, definitely the honey component to it as well. I could say honeysuckle mostly in the later dates, but on this day the peach was really impressive. Day 17, peachiness continues to increase on the sweeter side of things. Darker candied honey is pronounced today as well. Citrus a little bit more subdued in the cup, and there's still some more of those sweeter floral aspects too. I'm thinking that honeysuckle definitely in a more sweeter pronounced characteristic on this day. So day 17, probably the best day of this coffee for me. So that being said, we go on a little forward to day 19, and there's a little bit of inconsistency in the cup, as on this day it started skewing a lot more on the citric side of things. So while we were seeing an incremental increase in the overall sweetness and peachiness of the cup, it really seemed to kind of plateau and then drop down a little bit from this point going forward, as there were the peachy qualities, but they were a lot more subdued on this day. Plenty of the floral candied honey yet again. It does open up as it cools, but that once really pronounced peachiness is definitely more subdued. Day 21, attempted one more V60 day to just kind of see if maybe the V60 could replicate those same sort of results as the Chemex, but I think the Chemex just really helped clean up this coffee and really helped that peach pop in it. Didn't quite work as well as it was clean. There were defined stone fruits, but the cup as a whole seems to have declined in terms of the peach vibrancy with time. A lot of the lively citrus isn't there as well, and here as I'm drinking this cup on day 26, a lot of that has dropped off as well. And I know a lot of people say that you can really see the cup of coffee improve a lot with a lot of rest, especially when a coffee is roasted like this and with this sort of roaster, the Loring. This one, though, it does seem to have plateaued a little earlier. That day 17 mark really was where I found the best from this coffee, but who knows? I still have a little bit left maybe in some future days. It will get better, but not quite the same cup as I experienced on those earlier days. All right, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we're getting. All right, one level 5, so let's go through that, and then a bunch of level 4s. Citrus, level 5. Yes, towards the end, the coffee went from being a really peachy cup of coffee to a really lemon-forward cup of coffee. And I think if we are able to switch those things, I'm kind of looking at that day 13 through day 17 mark where the peach was in huge abundance. That would have earned a level 5. The citrus would have been down at level 4, but I really needed to highlight the fact that the citrus was much more dominant than the stone fruit in this cup of coffee for me, for the most part throughout the time drinking this cup. A bunch of level 4s, cleanliness level 4, that's great. Any anaerobic at a level 4, as I've kind of alluded to, anaerobic washed coffees usually score higher on that cleanliness, so this one was a really clean cup of coffee, so kudos to them for that. Finish level 4, surprisingly with all the citrus, with all the peach, it doesn't have the most lasting finish. It has a quite even and pleasant finish, so I like it there at that level 4 mark. Sweetness level 4, surprisingly it's not overly sweet. It's the epitome of that perfect level 4 mark, as this one right here had a bunch of sweeter aspects. So thinking that peach from time, the citrus in this cup was more sweet, the florals in this cup were more sweet, the honey in this cup was more sweet. So they were all sweet, but none of them were overbearingly sweet or intensely sweet. Acidity level 4, yeah, very much so. That's not surprising in any sense. Florality level 4, again, thinking the honeysuckle, they have a white flower note listed on here. Yeah, it does have some pronounced floral characteristics as well. So I think that that's justified, just as pronounced, especially towards the later days, as the peach. Bitterness, level 4, correction, level 3, that's coming from the citrus again, so don't have too much to say on that. Body, level 2, it does have a lighter body. I could go either way, level 2 or level 3, as even with the Chemex, it does have a slight bit more body than I think I was expecting, so I'm fine with it at either of those 2 marks. I think I just went with 2 to kind of highlight the fact that it wasn't the most robust body. Anything else worth discussing? Not really. I feel like this is a pretty accurate representation of what I'm getting on this day, and even though this tasting wheel could look a little different because this coffee was ever so slightly inconsistent, it's for the most part an accurate representation of what I was getting throughout the time drinking this coffee. All right, so my overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee, that small window, that day 13 through like day 17, even day 19 mark, it was one of the best Ethiopians I'd had this year, and that goes to show just how much I do enjoy black and whites coffees when they are maybe the more standard coffees. This one still comes off as on the more standard side of things pertaining to black and whites coffees. So I think they did a really nice job with this one. I just wish I was able to work with this coffee a little better, because if I could have replicated those results throughout, I think at the very least this is not just one of my favorite Ethiopian coffees of the year, but at least an honorable mentions at the end of the year. So really nice coffee. Goes to show that I still really do enjoy black and whites coffees, and I wish they offered some more stuff like this throughout the year, and I would be more inclined to try a lot more of their coffees. Type of person I would suggest this coffee to, if you do like the citrus, that as mentioned was the most pronounced characteristic throughout the time drinking this coffee, the most consistent characteristic anyway. When you're able to get that wonderful peach, I know there are a lot of people that adore the peach component to coffees, myself included. That's the best aspect of this coffee. It was so wonderful, had so many other sweet factors that I keep highlighting, and it was also very clean. So I think this goes to show the best of what anaerobic wash process coffees are capable of doing. So keep all of those things in mind. But for the most part, I think I'll leave this review at that. If you enjoy the content, give this video a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But this right here has been a review of the Kubi Anaerobic Wash Processed Ethiopia from Black and White Coffee Roasters. Thank you for watching.